Hello friends, welcome to my channel. Here we will discuss history of the Bielski brothers. Tuvia, Asael, Zeus, Alexander, and Aron were four Jewish siblings from Stankiewicz, a village in what was then Poland, now Belarus, who became legendary for leading one of the most successful Jewish resistance efforts against the Nazis during World War II. Their story is one of resilience, leadership, and heroism, centered around the Bielski Partisans, a group that ultimately saved over 200 Jews from extermination. Background: the Bielski family. The brothers were born into a family of 12 children in Stankiewicz, near the town of Nowohródek, Nowogrodek. Their parents were millers and farmers, relatively well off and respected in the local Jewish community. The Bielski brothers were familiar with the surrounding forests, which would later prove critical for their survival and resistance. Tuvia Bielski, 1906–1987, commander and moral leader of the Bielski Partisans. Tuvia had served briefly in the Polish army and was the eldest of the resistance leader siblings. After the Nazi invasion of the Soviet Union in 1941 and the killing of his parents and other family members, he took to the forests with his surviving brothers and began to organize a partisan group. Visionary leadership. Tuvia insisted that their mission was not just to fight Germans, but to save Jews, especially the elderly, women, and children. He famously said, "I would rather save one old Jewish woman than kill 10 German soldiers." After the war, he emigrated to Israel, then later to the United States, where he lived in Brooklyn until his death in 1987. Asael Bielski, 1908–1945. Second in command and logistical strategist, Asael was strong, calm, and competent, a natural leader. He helped organize food and shelter for the growing group. He later joined the Red Army when they re-entered the area and was killed in action in 1945, likely during the Battle of Königsberg. Asael was the father-in-law of author Peter Duffy, who wrote about the Bielski brothers. Zeus, Alexander Bielski, 1912–1995, military commander and key organizer. Known for his aggressive stance and fiery temperament, Zeus was primarily responsible for defense and tactical operations. He temporarily left the group to fight with the Red Army, returning after his service. After the war, he emigrated to Israel, then moved to Brooklyn, where he and Tuvia ran a trucking business. He was known for downplaying his role in the Partisans, but lived to see wider recognition of their efforts. Aron Bielski, B. 1927, later changed name to Aron Bell, role, youngest of the four. A teenager during the war, though he played a smaller leadership role due to his age, Aron still participated in the resistance effort. He survived the war and eventually settled in the United States. In later years, he gave interviews and participated in efforts to preserve the Bielski story. The Bielski Partisans, established in 1942, the group grew from a handful of escapees into a hidden community of more than 200 Jews living in the Naliboki forest. The Bielski Otriad was unique among partisan groups for its focus on saving civilians. Not just fighting, they built a hidden camp with workshops, a school, a bakery, and even a hospital in the woods. Their efforts were remarkable given the odds, surrounded by German forces, collaborating locals, and harsh conditions. The story of the Bielski brothers was dramatized in the 2008 film Defiance, starring Daniel Craig as Tuvia and Liev Schreiber as Zeus. Their story is also detailed in books like Defiance, The Bielski Partisans by Neshama, Tech, The Bielski Brothers by Peter Duffy. The Bielskis are remembered as heroes who chose to resist rather than submit to extermination. They didn't just survive, they saved lives, forming a unique legacy in the history of the Holocaust and Jewish resistance. Their story challenges common narratives of Jewish passivity during the Holocaust and remains a source of inspiration and pride. Into the structure and daily life of the Bielski camp, their relationship with other partisan groups, the challenges they faced, and the post-war impact of their efforts. Life inside the Bielski camp, 1942–1944. The Bielski camp was hidden in the Naliboki forest, a vast, swampy woodland in western Belarus. The dense terrain made it ideal for guerrilla warfare and evasion, but it also presented immense logistical challenges, especially in winter. Organization Tuvia and his brothers essentially created a hidden village with a surprisingly sophisticated structure, zemlyankas, underground huts used for shelter and concealment, workshops, blacksmiths, cobblers, and tailors operated to make weapons, shoes, and clothing, bakery and kitchen, fed hundreds daily using foraged food, supplies from Soviet drops or raids, hospital, run by Jewish doctors and nurses, treated wounded partisans and sick civilians. School and synagogue, maintained a cultural and educational life even in hiding. Civilians. First, over 70% of the people in the camp were non-combatants: women, children, the elderly, and the infirm. Tuvia insisted, "Our revenge is to live." That meant prioritizing survival and dignity over vengeance. Military action and resistance, partisan activities. Sabotage. The group derailed trains, destroyed bridges, ambushed German patrols, and blew up supply depots. Retribution raids, occasionally, carried out retaliatory attacks against collaborators or Nazi outposts. Gathering intelligence. Scouts relayed German troop movements and helped other Soviet partisans. Collaboration with Soviet partisans. The Bielski Brothers maintained tenuous alliances with Soviet units. Tensions sometimes arose because Soviet partisans prioritized combat over rescue. There was anti-Semitism even among Red Army fighters. Tuvia resisted orders that would have forced him to abandon the non-combatants in his group. Hardships and challenges, weather and disease. Winters were brutal. Temperatures below 20 degrees Celsius. Little food, no medical supplies. Typhus, dysentery, and frostbite were common. Starvation and supplies raids on local villages, some sympathetic, others hostile, were necessary for food and weapons. This sometimes worsened relations with surrounding Polish or Belarusian peasants. Security threats. The Nazis launched several sweeps of the forest, particularly the German Operation Hermann in summer 1943. The Bielski camp had to constantly move to avoid detection and annihilation, the end of Nazi occupation by summer 1944. The Red Army was advancing westward, pushing the Germans out. The Bielski group emerged from the forest near Novogrudok with 1,236 Jews alive, making it one of the largest successful Jewish rescue efforts during the Holocaust. After the war. Defied. Brothers were hailed as heroes by many, but also faced suspicion in Stalinist USSR. Tuvia and Zeus both emigrated, first to Israel, then to the United States. Aron changed his name to Aron Bell and lived in Florida. Asael, who never made it out, died a soldier in the Red Army in 1945. Courage redefined. The Bielskis turned a survival effort into a full-scale rescue operation, refusing to choose between resistance and humanity. Moral leadership. Their focus on saving non-combatants challenges. The traditional narrative of partisan warfare. Inspiration to generations. Their story has been studied in Holocaust education, used in military leadership courses, and featured in documentaries and dramatizations. Yad Vashem and the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum include the Bielski story in their archives. The 2008 film Defiance brought their legacy to a broader public. Schools, museums, and Jewish communities around the world commemorate their efforts on Holocaust Remembrance Days. By the numbers, the Bielski Brothers category details active years. 1942, 1944 location Naliboki Forest. Belarus survivors sheltered. 1,236. Jews combatants. 150, 300 armed partisans. Total saved. One of the largest rescue operations of Jews by fellow Jews in WW Final Notes on the brothers Tuvia. Bielski passed away in Brooklyn in Tish. 1987, his grave unmarked until 2001. Zeus Bielski lived quietly until his death in 1995. Asael never saw freedom. His sacrifice was never forgotten. Aron Bielski lived until the 2020s, giving interviews to preserve the story. The Bielski brothers were not saints, nor perfect soldiers, but they were extraordinarily human in a time of dehumanization.